Gordon, for those who are watching online. This evening's agenda has an amendment. The advisory update that was to be part of the agenda. The presenters are apparently ill, and consequently this will be moved off into the next curriculum committee, which will be January 10th, I believe.
7th, maybe?
Okay. In any event, the next curriculum committee meeting. So at this point, I'd like to turn the meeting over to our assistant superintendent to be able to present what we're going to be talking about tonight.
Thank you so much. Actually, when I told Jen and Sarah that we had one last presentation, they were excited because they have so much more to share with you. So they were feeling a little crowded, and now they're feeling like they have more space, which we love. And of course, we're looking forward to having the advisory update in January, which actually works nicely because the other agenda item was the update on career counseling and that role. So we're still working in themes here, which is really nice. So this evening, I think you're going to get a lot of information about something the board cares very deeply about, which is wellness of our students and of our staff. And we started this journey in the beginning of summer, in the beginning of June, or the end of June, with this room packed, filled with staff members from counseling and social work and PE teachers and health teachers, all learning about the new standards that we were unpacking together. And we spent several days here, and then they were having so much fun. They spent several weeks here afterwards and continue to do that work. So as a result of that, kudos to Sarah, kudos to Jen. We are further ahead than we ever imagined in that work. So we have a lot to present this evening. So you might remember Sarah Sandora. She's been here before. And Sarah leads our curriculum work in wellness. So it's a 2-year cycle. This is year 1 of the 2-year cycle. And all of the writers in these departments are new to curriculum writing. They've never written curriculum before. So they're learning a lot about design, which Sarah knows a lot about. And they're also learning about the Madison standards for curriculum writing. And Jen has been our head of counseling for K through 12 for how many years, Jen?
10 years.
10 years.
Yeah.
And she comes to this work with just an earnestness about really doing some vertical work and a real philosophy commitment to having kids know their counselors, know their social workers before they need them. So I'm going to turn it over to Sarah to do the introductions to the great overviews and the great works. And of course, there's always questions are welcome. So
Very well.
thanks very much.
Thank you. So thank you very much for inviting us in. We are excited about this new curriculum. It's fairly innovative because it's not something that districts tend to do, where we're pulling in school counselors and social workers and putting them in front of our students to build community and to make sure that all of our students know the supports that they have in school. And as Gail had mentioned, it started in June, and we had a lot of different fields in here working together. If we can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So Connecticut came out with new healthy, balanced living frameworks, which includes a lot of the social emotional important information. And with that, it really fused a lot of the disciplines together. So we have PE, we have health, we have social work and school counseling all working together. And when we started the work in June, we started with front loading some PD so that everybody was on the same page regardless of what discipline they were in. So that we have a common vocabulary, we know what standards we're going for, and we also are working towards more of a skill-based curriculum as opposed to just content. So we lead with the skill standards and we supplement the skills with the content standards. We work really hard to connect all of those disciplines. So when I speak to the school counseling and school social work curriculum in just a bit, you will see that I've actually incorporated some of the health standards into the school counseling and social work curriculum. Because we're looking for those cross-curricular connections, that interdisciplinary connection, and looking to really support students throughout the school with their social emotional well-being. Another goal that we have is to make sure that the students see the social workers and the school counselors as part of their school community. So we've made a big push to bring the counselors and social work and also Madison Youth and Family Services into our classrooms so that the students who know the social worker at Polson, for example, who work with that social worker, they're not the only ones who have access to her. We want all students to know, to recognize, for instance, Missy Hartman at Polson, so that if there's an issue, even if they're not a student who reaches out to her or speaks with her, they know that she's a resource. And if they hear something that they're concerned about, they can remember, oh, I remember when this woman came into my class and I know she can help me with this. So they can seek her out. And that is really a very important aspect of this. So if we can go to the next slide. Here we have the framework, and as I mentioned before, it is interdisciplinary. It's health, PE, and the CASEL standards, which incorporate, that's a social emotional piece. So that they're all woven together within that one curriculum document that has the standards. So by default, just using those standards has already integrated the social emotional well-being of our students very thoughtfully. And we also are using the Connecticut School Counseling Standards. So when we're working with the school counseling social work curriculum, which is what I'm going to focus on tonight because it's the most developed, you will see that those standards are tagged. But you'll also see that some standards from health are tagged as well, because health and emotional well-being obviously are very closely linked. The next, thank you. So as Gail indicated, this started in the summer at the end of June. We front-loaded the professional development, which as I indicated before, is really an important piece of this work to get everybody on the same page. And while not all teachers and staff members could attend, we did have a wide variety of people coming from different grade levels, from different buildings, and from different disciplines. And that was really helpful. Moving forward beyond the summer, we're trying to utilize as many PD days as possible because we don't like to pull the teachers from their classes, but sometimes we have to. And the teachers and building administrators have been very helpful and very giving of their time. And so we've moved forward quite well with this curriculum. I wrote the science curriculum a few years ago, and the comparison is much different. Like we have it down pat now, this process. So you front load the PD, you work in the summer, and then once you do that, everyone's on the same page. So you can really get more work done in those sessions because you're not sort of going back and saying, here's how we write curriculum. This is EduPlanet. Everything is in place, and the teachers become leaders as well in the meetings. Another thing that we're working to do is the vertical alignment. So these are an example of some vertical teams that we've assembled so far, and we're continuing to do so. So the fourth rate SCSW is what I've just been calling the school counseling, school social work. It's a lot easier to say and to write. Yesterday, as a matter of fact, we had a group in, it was K-8 counseling and social work. And what I really loved about yesterday is we had a question about the use of the rubrics in the K-3, and we just popped right over and touched base with the other counseling social work teams, and we had a great conversation about how we want to use it, how we want it to initiate conversations with the classroom teacher. So that vertical alignment and being able to work in those teams has been really important to developing our curriculum. And just some other vertical teams that have met. Next slide. So moving forward, we are looking to push some of the curriculum forward for June. And I just want to speak about that for 1 minute and go through it and then circle back to the counseling and social work. So I want to spend a little bit more time with that. But the courses listed under the June 2023 adoption are the entire school counseling, school social work curriculum, K through 12, which I'm so happy about. I've been so impressed with the work that these faculty members have been doing. It's been wonderful that I mean, maybe in March, we can even be completed and sent to CRC. 6 through 8 health curriculum. We're going to implement 2 health classes at hand for next year and 2 PE electives at hand for next year, which I do want to speak about in just a little bit more depth. I'm not sure how familiar you are with the health and PE curriculum at hand. Currently, there's in grade 9, there's a 1 trimester course for all freshmen. It's health and PE. That's 0.25 credits for each. Grade 10, it's the same thing. And all 9th graders take PE 9, all 10th graders take PE 10, and then 11th grade, you have a little bit of wiggle room. You could do PE 11 or self-defense. And then you can also choose to take junior, senior health and junior, senior year. So one of our goals is to have more student input and to have more student choice. And the way that we went about doing that is first we had some focus groups. So we met with Brown and Polson as focus groups, but we also met with the hand students and got an idea of what they really wanted to see in their new programming and what types of electives. We surveyed 254 students, I believe, at hand to determine what electives they would like to see, what they loved about PE and health, what they would like to see change. And so that is not only driving our curriculum development, but it also drove the courses that we decided to move forward with. So next year is the bottom graphic there. It's a transition year. So to be sure that all students were receiving the credits that they needed and the courses that we needed, we had to think very carefully about how we were going to incorporate the new courses. So for next year, the incoming 9th graders will have elective choice in PE. So you can see the options for next year's 9th graders will be recreational games or personal fitness. And the ideas behind that was the rec games is really a lot of cooperative work, and the personal fitness is for those students who maybe don't like those cooperative games and want to sort of be more by themselves, work on their own personal goals. And that was something that we were really dedicated to. With choice in PE, we wanted to make sure that all students felt that they had a place and were excited to go to their PE class. And then health is now, next year, the freshmen will take health, but moving forward, it will be a 9-10 option. So the students can opt to take in either 9th or 10th grade. Another thing that we did is we pulled health out of the PE curriculum in order to elevate it. The teachers felt very strongly that health was a really important course and the students needed the content that was in there. And so we wanted to make sure that the students were like, oh, this is the health portion of PE. It is a health class. We value it, we find it important. So we elevated it. So now there are 2 health classes, a 9-10 health and an 11-12 health. Moving forward, after the 23-24 school year, all PE electives will be available. So we still have more to develop. Depending on how enrollment and numbers shake out for next year, that's going to drive how many courses we offer. But right now we're thinking maybe another 2 or 3 electives. And so the way that it would work is we would offer some electives just for 9th graders, because that is a special transition year. And we were a little bit hesitant to have an elective where a 9th grader could be in a PE class with an 11th or 12th grader. So we decided just to have 9th grade electives available, and then we'll have electives available for 10th and 11th grade for PE, and then health 9-10, 11, and 11-12 health. So that's for next year. And then the rest of it will be adopted in June of 2024, K-8 health and PE, possibly 2 PE electives at Polson. That's what we currently have. So we're still going to take a look and evaluate those. 1 health elective at Polson. Again, we have a health elective. We're just not certain if we're going to keep the same one. And then possibly some more, definitely some more electives at hand. We're just not sure how many. So if you wouldn't mind referring to your yellow folder, there are some items that I'd like you to take a look at. On the left-hand side, I made just a really quick graphic about the capacities that have been addressed in the counseling and social work curriculum so far. There's 2 reasons why I want to highlight the social work curriculum. One, because it's really almost complete. So it gives you a good idea of the direction that we're going. But also, as I mentioned before, it's a really different type of curriculum. So I wanted to show you what was in it and how it was playing out. So obviously the profile of graduate capacities are a district priority. So in creating the curriculum maps, we were really aware of what capacities we needed to target. As you can imagine, self-awareness and decision-making are really heavy with a counseling and social work curriculum, but we have found other places for capacities, and we're really happy with how it's playing out. So that's just a quick overview on that. Also on the left-hand side of your packet is a staple curriculum map. This is our scope and sequence map. Please excuse its clunkiness. It is a work in progress. It's constantly being reviewed, but what I wanted to do is show you sort of the process through this. So I mentioned yesterday that I met with K-8 counseling and social work, and if you take a look on that very first page, this is how the kindergarten played out. So we wrote the kindergarten curriculum yesterday. So this gives you a pretty good idea of what's going to be delivered for kindergarten, but a caveat, this is still, I left it as is because I kind of wanted to show you the thought process behind it and show you how it compares to the other ones. And if you flip the page, you'll see the other grades are much shorter. This is part of how the curriculum is written. And we have the same exact map for PE and for health, so that all faculty members are working off of the same type of document, keeps the curriculum very consistent. And the reason that we do this is for vertical alignment and to also ensure that we're hitting what we need to hit for our students. We're getting the capacities there, we're tackling the standards that we need to tackle, we're tackling the issues that we feel are important. So this is, obviously I don't expect you to go through this tonight, but feel free to peruse it. And you can certainly email me any follow-up questions. Yes.
Now, these frameworks, are these embedded? Is the expectation these are embedded into the standard classroom instruction, or what we're describing here, the presentations by the social work and counseling staff?
It varies. So with kindergarten, for example, we have added some supplemental lessons that classroom teachers can use to build off of it. And we've also added some classroom reference posters that we want every classroom to have, K-3, so that there's consistency for those students to start recognizing its zones of regulation and a feeling chart. To start recognizing those zones and the language associated with them in the regular classroom. So where we can expand the knowledge within the classroom, we do. So for instance, in health, we have Madison Youth and Family Services who do some programming with health that aligns with their current health content. So in some instances, yes. Others, no. So I don't see, we haven't yet put anything in, for example, in the science courses, Polson. But where we see inroads, yes, we would love to have classroom support, but also being aware of, the content that needs to be taught.
But all social workers and counselors deliver directly to each classroom, right?
Yes, absolutely. To every grade level. So it varies how they get into the classes, but the intent is every year, every student and every grade level will see the counselors and the social workers, Madison Youth and Family Services, and on occasion, the school psychologist as well. Yes, absolutely. So scope and sequence, like I said, it's used for everyone, and you can take a look at your leisure. On the right-hand side of the folder, this is our kindergarten unit. Like I said, we just completed it yesterday. I updated in EduPlanet this morning. So I'm sure you have seen this curriculum format before in EduPlanet. And again, I don't expect you to go through all of this now, but I wanted to show you what it looks like having the counselors and social workers push into classes. And you will see if you go to page So page 4 of 8 starts the actual lessons. And we have a minimum of 4 lessons that are being delivered every grade level K through 12 by the counselors or social work, or at least developed by them. We have some creative ways to deliver the information as well, but it is all counseling social work developed. So these are just some of the lessons. You can see that there are resources there. I've indicated some of the posters that we want posted in the classroom. And the lessons are fairly well developed, but it still leaves some ability for the counselors and social workers to switch modes if they have to in the class. And then on pages 7 and 8, you'll see that there are a few optional lessons. We've added 3 optional lessons. I've also indicated the required lesson that it best aligns to, but as you can see, I made a note, where is it? Oh, so I always give the suggested delivery. So it's in the classroom, delivered by the classroom teacher, and the schedule is as needed, but aligns with lesson 1. So to try to give the teacher some guidance as to when they can use these.
The idea behind that design is transfer, right? So they're learning from the social worker and they're learning from the counselor directly, but the transfer into the classroom is also highlighted. So if a classroom teacher is having a particular challenge with the group, there's already crafted lessons that reinforce those skills. So where we run out of time with that staff, it still goes into the classroom and it's still reinforced along with the posters and stuff. Love that design. You guys did a great job.
Thank you.
You know, just a question that's in my mind. You know, I see the frameworks and I understand where that comes from, but I also look at it and go, there are, you know, salient issues like social media and eating disorders and other things that are, you know, absolutely present as issues in the high school. How do things like that get introduced and addressed?
Well, that is actually in the standards, and there are certain state mandates that we have to have. So beyond what we're even doing here, one of the reasons we love having the social workers and Madison Youth and Family Services work alongside us is because they have their finger on the pulse of some issues that are being raised in the school that, you know, maybe just a few kids here and there are saying it, but it's been so great to have them as a resource where we can be going through this curriculum and they say, well, what about this? I think we need to have some information on topic X. And that actually recently came up when I was working with the Polson counselors and social workers. And the Madison Youth and Family Services and the social worker at Polson both sort of picked up on it and said, I think we need to get it. And I think we need to develop a lesson and deliver it in addition to these 4. So we do have people who are on it and paying attention.
Thank you. I mean, that really is my question about how responsive is this whole
Yes,
process?
very responsive. Actually, I was going to say in a lot of what we're doing, and you'll hear some of the high school stuff when I speak, but it allows us, I think, I don't know how, but it seems to be giving us more time to see students individually. We're able to do that a lot more because we're sharing a lot with the social workers, which we didn't do before. So it's allowing us to do that a little bit more too, to have a pulse on our own students and, you know, whether it be groups or individually, but I think we're feeling that shake out a little bit. So we're given more time with our students individually by doing these kind of larger lessons and things. And like I said, pulling the social workers in and having them, which they haven't at the high school level done before. And also we have the college and career counselor who's doing things as well. So it's just giving us a little more time with our own students because they're able to help deliver some of these. And we actually talked about, and we're not sure of the logistics, but when I was last with the hand counselors and social workers, we were hoping to develop a resource for all of the students at hand and maybe pulling it down. We just have to make sure logistically it works, like possibly Google Classroom, that the social worker maintains and adds resources to as necessary. If there's an incident at a school, add resources in that, or if something's brewing. And just also another way for students to get in touch with them, because maybe walking down the hallway, the Helping Hands hallway, and knocking on their door, or are they with someone, but having this electronic way to be like, hey, I have a question, whether I'm at home or I'm in study hall. So we're looking for something like that. We're trying to really ensure access for all kids to these support services.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And the last thing I have, I know I've had a lot. I have just one lesson from kindergarten. This is the first lesson that's going to be delivered, just so that you have a sense of what it looks like. Again, feel free to take a look when you're able. But unless you have any questions at this point, I'll turn it over to Jen and she can focus on what we're doing at hand.
Just make a comment. I noticed in the team area that Allison Zamuda was also part of was she part of this as well?
She pops in and out.
Yes.
So
Well,
I have to
she's
say,
helpful
so
with
we
me.
have very limited
Yeah.
time with her, so
Yeah.
sometimes she'll do a launch and she'll touch a group.
Yeah.
But then she may not touch 12 other groups that are going on.
Right.
So, Sarah touches all groups and makes sure that they're
Yeah.
all consistent. But Allison definitely pops in and out and does the same for music. So,
Having worked with her, I know how impactful she is, and the fact that we have her here in Madison is really pretty great. And I agree, the work that she does is she lays such firm and
yes.
fertile soil, and it really lays that groundwork. But I think it's a great partnership. So I wanted to just mention that. And then I have a question, but it might get answered, so I'm going to wait and then have a chance to hear the second part.
Sure.
Okay.
Allison was actually, she was amazing working with
Yes,
us because as you guys said, counselors and curriculum aren't really, one and the same. I don't think we are now. We have had a great experience. This has been great. Sarah's been so helpful, and the counselors at the high school level for sure. We
Amazing.
really bought in, and it's just really kind of neatened up our job, I think, as far as everything's laid out for us now. And as I said, I feel like it almost is giving us more time to do other things that we want to do and to, supports that we'll have for the students. So it's been nice to kind of lay everything out and really pull more of our team members in while we were doing so.
And also you're building team members. It's like that through line
Absolutely.
of curriculum development and curriculum and standards and all of that. It creates a cohesion within faculty and staff that is priceless, I think.
Yeah.
It's always a first, when we're at the end of June and we're doing the launch with the PD, it's always a little bit uncomfortable because sometimes people are meeting each other for the first time and they've worked here for a long time, but it's the idea too of integration. So
Absolutely.
it's always a little bumpy start. And, I spent, I think, days here, many days. But it's also, once they understand what the mission is, then I think everybody was on board pretty quickly.
Absolutely.
I think we had like 2 weeks here, right? Pretty much 2 weeks in the end of June.
Yes. Yeah.
Pretty much with scattered groups and stuff, but solid 2 days of PD.
But that's so important for a district, but also at a big level, but also at a smaller level. Your friends across the hall or upstairs or downstairs, and sometimes you just don't cross paths, but having, especially with wellness, every area of a child's day, pre-K through 12, should have a sprinkling.
Well, and I think for the first time we have like a vertical philosophy.
Yes,
We have vertical ownership. So, it's a lot of work, but it's certainly pays off, right?
Yeah.
Pays off.
And to see, what health is doing, in comparison to us, so we're not overlapping or we are making sure we're covering things that we know students need, so.
Yeah, I mean, it truly is transfer at its best, like an opportunity for transfer at its best, so thank you.
How does it get translated to the regular ed teachers? After the work of the summertime, which is primarily social work and counselors, to get this vertical alignment, everyone has to get that message and understand that. So how does that happen? That work gets translated
We usually roll it out at some point in early PD so that people are on the same page. It's often very specific to, for instance, the PE teachers who maybe weren't able to participate as much, or the health teachers who weren't. But at some point early in the year, everybody is aware of the curriculum that has been written and what that's going to look like before the year begins.
I will, I just want to explain some of the topics. I guess I'll go through the themes for the high school curriculum, for the social work and school counselors. The 9th grade, we called Navigating High School. We were very creative with that one, Sarah.
You know, some days you're creative, some days you're not.
And it's really getting to know your counselors, and again, incorporating the social workers in this, which we've not done before. So we're able to then see, in the past, we met with freshmen in classrooms, and it wasn't our students necessarily, it was whatever freshman class we got thrown into. So now we're able to meet with our own students on our caseload, which is going to be a great experience for them to make that immediate connection. In addition to that, they'll be working with the social workers on different topics, you know, just transitioning and what some concerns may be at that time. And the college and career counselor will also have a chance to meet them doing a career lesson. And so they'll see all of us at least one point in a small group. And we haven't been able to do that before, like I said, and we'll also incorporate, we're going to meet with the freshmen, all of the students, but the freshmen especially in the scheduling process individually, which we've never been able to do before. So we normally would just go into a classroom and say, here's the program of studies, and do you have any questions? You know, these are the classes. So we've scheduled, I think they're like 15-minute meetings, and it's going to be a crazy 2 weeks, but we're going to try it this year for the first time, and then we'll adjust it for next year. But to be able to sit with a freshman especially, and all of the students, and say, these are the courses you took this year, you know, this is what's available, what questions do you have, and have that discussion rather than it just be an overview. We all know the kids may not raise their hand when we were in the classroom, so it'll just be a lot nicer to see them individually. So that's something else we're going to be incorporating. And then at the end, they're going to complete a self-awareness survey, and also just reflect on the year and give advice to the students that are coming up from 8th grade. So I think that'll be a fun activity for them to do. Some of our PBAs, or I think most of our PBAs, are going to be delivered through also our advisory, which Catherine and Ron are going to be there, so they could explain that a little bit better next time that we meet. But we want to use that time too, so that we could we're trying to create connections with advisors. So just another support, you know, in the building. So that will be done in advisory. The 10th grade is Trusted Peeps and Community Resources. We're going to reiterate who we are. We want, you know, for them to know maybe a little bit deeper, maybe talk about a few more topics. The social workers, I think, are going to try to reach out and find out what some topics would be important to the students, and talk about de-stressing lessons and things like that. So maybe mindfulness. It will depend on, you know, what the needs are at that time. And the school counselors will talk to our students in small groups. We haven't been able to do that with sophomores. We were usually doing a quick career lesson, and then, you know, but again, we're going to meet with our sophomores at the beginning of the school year and really talk to them about what their needs are, and just get to know each other. We, you know, in a small group, we haven't always been able to do that. It's a lot of crisis mode, you know, they'll come to us, or like I said, we're working with students that maybe aren't ours. So we're going to be able to see our students in small groups, talk about goal setting and things like that sophomore year. And again, our college and career counselor will get to do the career lesson and make those connections. And she'll be here on the 10th or the 7th to talk more about how she'll extend that, other than just the lesson, you know, the other opportunities that she's going to have through the College and Career Center. Our 11th grade future planning, that's not much different than what we do now, because we know 11th grade is all about future planning and talking to our juniors. Some of that hasn't changed. We thankfully have been able to meet with our juniors and their families every year, and we're going to continue to do so. Right about now, we start those, and to talk about what their interests are, whether it be college, whether, you know, some students that are going into a trade or things like that, and really have that discussion and talk about the process and the steps that they'll be needing to take throughout the rest of their junior year and into their senior year. Those are great with the family. Everyone's on board. We're all talking together and bouncing ideas off each other, learning about Naviance and the different programs that they'll be using a lot more, which they'll have used with our college and career counselor too. So it will be familiar to them. And she'll again do more lessons and more exploration with them as well. And that's the one year we don't have a specific social work lesson set up. I don't know if we plan to maybe have them do something, whether we have them get a speaker come in or something, but we will incorporate them junior year. And they will then, the juniors will complete a junior reflection. We used to call it a candidate statement, but we changed the name of it to reflect on who they are and what they've done. And they will share that with the counselor. We use that to write their letter of recommendation. We use it for, scholarship things when that comes up as well. So they will complete the reflection probably before our meeting, and the parents fill one out as well. So that would be our junior lesson, our lessons. And grade 12, Oh, the Places You'll Go, probably one of my favorite books. So I like the title, and that was Allison's. So I'll give her credit for that one. And that is going to change a bit as well. We always met with our seniors, again, in a small group, our own seniors, we were able to do that, but we're going to meet with them individually in the fall. And we did a little bit of that this year. And so we will continue to do that, about a 20-minute conversation. What have you done over the summer? What do you still need to do? And kind of get them moving in the right direction. We're very lucky to have Chrissy Coyle as the career and college counselor. She has been so helpful with students. We have kids this year applying in Australia and like all kinds of things. So she's been great resource for us because sometimes we don't have time to sit down and actually fill out the applications. And she's been able to do that. So it's been really helpful. Our college and career counselor will continue to help them with whether it's, like I said, exploring different options, if it's not college or a trade school. She went to Gateway already this year with a bunch of students. She had a manufacturing lab come in. So she's going to explore that way with a lot of our seniors. She'll continue to do that. And she'll talk more about that again next time. And we are going to do something a little bit different this year too. We've added a senior exit interview. So they're forced to see us one more time. They do come on their own. Seniors definitely are great about coming to see us because they do want the support and we're happy to help them. But at the end of the year, sometimes they don't always come back and tell us where they're going or what they're doing. So we're forcing them to come for an exit interview to have that last chat, about what their plans are, what else we need to do for them. And to really just kind of share what, are they excited about, what are they nervous about? And we want to put some different things in place, maybe like a panel or something, so that they can hear other people's experiences on their way out and as they're transitioning. And they'll complete a survey in Naviance, as they always do. And then we want them to also complete what I wish I knew before they came to high school, to share again with incoming students. This was my experience. I wish I joined more clubs, or I wish I did that. So we're going to encourage them to all do that as well. So a lot of changes, I think a lot of great changes that we plan to do. We'll make adjustments as we need to, but we're going to process and attempt a lot of this now this year as much as we can so that we can fix it for the following year and make any updates that we want to. A few things that are new, which is the last slide, is like I said, our social work staff has not delivered lessons at the high school level. I know they do at the younger levels, but they have not gone in the classroom, and they're excited about doing that. And we're excited about them being able to do that and make those connections because we all support one another. And, if something comes up, we're bouncing ideas off each other. So it's just nice. They have so much insight. So it'll be great for them to share that with the students and for the students to know who they are too. So I think that's going to be great. Our college and career counselor is going to work with every grade level, as I mentioned, doing different lessons and things like that, in addition to many other things she plans to do. We do want to have a workshop for juniors. I forgot to mention that one. That's going to be dependent on topics. I'm going to send out a survey actually, hopefully before the winter break, to ask them, what are you worried about right now? What are some things you want to do? We're going to give them a few ideas, like whether it be Naviance or career exploration, writing a resume, whatever it is that they've kind of, and we want them to give us some ideas too. And we're going to have workshops, hopefully during an advisory period, for them to sign up for and go to. to learn about those things and to kind of get ahead of the game. So that'll be new this year. Again, I know Chrissy will talk about this, but we want to have maybe a panel of former college students come in, which we haven't done in the past, not at least recently. We did it way back when. And then we plan to use some advisory time moving forward with scripted topics for advisors, not only to deliver or to help with some of the PPAs that we mentioned, but also, again, if there's topics that come up, if we can write a lesson that the advisors can deliver. We have small groups, it's about 10 to 14 students. So if something's bubbling up and at the high school level, it's not easy to, run into the classrooms, and we're not all taking the same classes, they're not all in English together. So we could use advisory time to deliver some of those lessons. We would write them and have the advisors deliver them if we needed to. So that'll be different. And they're great about sharing that time with us. So they'll talk more about that too.
It might be interesting to, for the workshops for the juniors.
Yes.
To have like some seniors helps to lead some of those.
Absolutely.
I think it might be really cool for the kids to, it's nice for them to see seniors. I know that was one of the things that my daughter was a senior this year, because this class that are seniors now, they left their freshman year in the fall. Like she only went to her class only went to like one dance. Their whole, like one, and they didn't get to see the senior, like all of the senior rites of passage.
Yep.
And missing those, those are goalposts that like set a standard for, gee, when I'm a senior, I want to be able to wear my sweatshirt or put my banner up or put my name on the glass at the guidance counseling yard. Like those little things those are seed planters. And I feel like those missed things, when it came time to be a senior, there was an excitement in our household for it, but there wasn't in my senior. And I'm from talking to other parents who have seniors this year as well. There's just a kind of and it just is a pandemic overhaul, like overload. But I don't know. It's just an odd thing, but I don't know. But it might be neat for the juniors to hear seniors talk about
Absolutely
some of those things, or that list of I wish I would have known. It might be great for freshmen and sophomores and juniors to hear that list and be like, wow, that's a regret, not a regret, but a reflective thought on a senior's part that I've been sort of doing that. Maybe I should not do that. We want
to post those. We want to have them. We might do a newsletter for incoming freshmen for orientation. Or so that they're, we want them out there. We want the students to see them. So absolutely.
Or even have like students interview other students, or somehow get classes that, I don't know. I just feel like student voice is so important. And I think it was missing just by default in the last few years. So I don't know. It's just a thought.
Well, and to build off of that, I really like the idea of the year ahead giving guidance to the year below. And I'm even thinking about sophomores transitioning into junior years, because junior year is such a transformative year, socially, emotionally, but then also academically being such a heavy year as it pertains to moving on to college for those that choose to do that. So even juniors speaking to sophomores at the end of the year, it's like, man, I wish I knew this at the start of junior year. I wish I knew maybe how I should think about looking at colleges and starting to build my list, so that by the time you're going into the end of junior year and you're starting to do your visits, you're ready, or you're starting to look at your trade programs, you've already got a resource, and you don't go into it like, there's like that sophomore slump, right? Where you feel comfortable at the end of the year, and then you go into junior year, sometimes a little slow moving.
That would be a great idea for advisory, if we could pull
Yeah.
a few, like you're saying, sophomores going to freshman
Yes.
advisories, because they're small groups and they'd be
Mhm.
comfortable talking.
Yep.
That's a great idea.
I was just thinking. of
Yeah, or
things
advisory
like
time,
that.
so we could put,
Yeah.
just
start
shift
student
students
voice.
down, and we can
Yeah.
absolutely do that.
Yeah,
I think
everybody
kids
could
would
be
love
a
it.
mentor kind of to the
Yes.
year below that.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah. I just think students with students is such a powerful.
Absolutely.
and I'm sure you know that.
We have an orientation coming up soon,
Yeah.
and, it's student led, and then at the end,
Yeah.
the secretary today was like, and then Miss Holly will talk, and she'll explain. I was like, I'm not gonna talk, they wanna talk to you,
Yeah.
they don't wanna hear from me, they wanna know what you guys think.
Yeah.
So it's true, I mean,
It's a
and,
very
it's just,
powerful,
so.
connection and voice, yeah. Yeah, that's good.
And the college students coming back, that's always a great event. I've seen that before, and next week is like the perfect time, my opinion.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's amazing how much they've grown in that one semester, and then you still have the seniors, they're still really a captive audience for them.
Yeah.
So. for
And the
to
kids
hear
are
from
always
people they
excited
know.
to come back.
That's what I was gonna say, it's
Visit
exciting for them
yeah,
too, right,
school
to
and
watch
their
them.
teachers
So
and
happy to talk to
kids.
Christy.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Just a perspective on, excuse me, this conversation. I mean, there's so many buckets involved here. There's the whole guidance responsibility that is included in this. And then there is the curriculum, that folks have done work on that is vertical. This board in particular, I mean, we had a retreat. And one of the more powerful conversations we've had has been our concern for students overall in terms of what is the support network. This really, I mean, that is another part of the conversation that tonight isn't really focused on, but it's the combination of all of those pieces. We're concerned about issues of self-harm. We're concerned about the statistics and the report we get from Madison Youth and Family Services. So, the board looks at this in the context of these are all pieces that collectively work. When I look at the freshman year, I mean, that's one of the most challenging and stressful years in kids in transition. So I look for where's that conversation, because what makes it stressful aside from the curricular demands, it's hugely stressful for kids in terms of the social navigating in groups and who you sit with in the lunchroom and the whole 9 yards. So, I just want to put that perspective that, I mean, I really appreciate the presentation. I appreciate how it's occupying a larger part of the conversation of what we do in Madison Public Schools. I really appreciate the vertical alignment and the common vocabulary starting in kindergarten with kids talking about, emotions and the dots and, because that's where it all starts with all these. But, this is an issue that is near and dear and very much on the minds of the full board.
That's good to hear too.
Well, can I follow on that? One of the questions I jotted down that I wanted to ask is, so apart from introducing the language of SEL and teaching a positive conduct that can help students to over time to, to help promote a better school climate and a more positive school climate, is there anything in the curriculum in particular or in the approach that addresses and discourages negative behaviors like bullying or those types of
One of the tenets of especially K through 5 is inclusion and respect for others and their rights and diversity. And we feel that lays the groundwork for anti-bullying. Because I don't have to tell you, but when you have that respect for others and you've been taught about inclusion and you've looked at scenarios about, there's one actually in kindergarten, it is an optional one, but it's from Sandy Hook, and it shows a video of somebody sitting alone at lunch. And I would like to see that worked into not only the social clues of kids picking up on that body language of that kid and the situation, but also strategies of how to bring it in. And as you know, we have, start with hello in the schools, but beyond that, we had a very strong focus of laying the groundwork for inclusion in an effort to prevent the bullying. No,
Well, and
I
then,
have to add too, if you don't mind me jumping in, but this is only one slice of this wellness piece. And it's, the slice is only social work and guidance delivered. So that's their strand. We have a whole health curriculum that also addresses lots of the concerns that you're concerned about. And the health, again, is a vertical program. And sometimes it's delivered by the PE teachers, sometimes very specific to health teachers. And that is also in development. So we're trying to really do it as a multifaceted kind of wraparound piece, with them being a team and really reinforcing along the way. So when we're all in the room together, it's not just a conversation between social work and guidance. The health teachers are there, PE teachers are there, and they're really knowing where each other is so they can also reinforce those things. So we have yet to develop those scoping sequences, but I guarantee you they'll have more in them, because the standards also are there for all.
And I do think that there's value in recognizing that a lot of the students that end up engaging in bullying behavior are themselves in an at-risk category, and maybe spending some time and energy on identifying, just as you identify other at-risk student types and groups, whatever, if the district were to also expend some effort and some professional development on identifying and addressing that kind of at-risk student, then we can maybe cut off a lot of bullying by offering supports to those kids. Instead of it being a negative application of a negative, like a punishment after the fact, try and find ways of bringing these kids in and addressing that risky scenario so that you can help them to become a more positive contributor. That's just the thought. And then another thing that I had a question about is, in terms of curriculum, is there anything done, and I don't know if curriculum is really the right place for it, but it could be. Is there anything done to address adult or / staff mental health? Because adult conduct impacts learning. So, I know that a lot of our teachers are very stressed right now. The profession has been under attack. And, with COVID, that was a very difficult couple of years for teachers. And, it's hard to expect teachers who themselves feel under fire or stressed and who may not have had those mental health releases and don't have their own vocabulary and background to deal with it. And expect them to incorporate these kind of lessons into the curriculum.
It's definitely not in their wheelhouse, but if you look at the school development plans, there is that culture and climate section, and that very much is present in the school plans. So that's really owned by not only admin, but their school-based building teams as well as, I have to give a shout out to HR because they're doing a lot of wellness programs right now. They're doing a lot of incentives to go to webinars in the evening where you can get different strategies, and then they give you a prize if you attend. I haven't gotten any prizes. But again, we're trying to do it in a multifaceted way. So I know right now, one of the buildings is doing a very spirited competition between teams and levels to do with different crazy acts that teachers are doing kind of subtly. And it's like a game board that they do and we compete. So things like that build spirit and also reinforce all that positive stuff. But on the other end, HR wraps around with individual wellness. So I think it's going to be an ongoing piece that we need to pay attention to. I agree with you. I think that profession has been pretty beaten up. So I think we do have to pay attention to how we treat everybody, and how we take care of them.
I do have one last question, and I'll shut up and let you finish here. Yeah, we're in budget season right now, and as Stephen articulated very well, that, you know, this board has been very concerned about student mental health and you know, staff mental health as well. You mentioned earlier in the presentation, I think both of you kind of got a moment and agreed that the social workers being involved was very helpful for the counselors, and I'm sure for everybody. Do you feel that there would be a positive overall outcome for student self-image and mental health and all of that? If, and I'm not saying that we necessarily can, but if there were more social work or other professionals added to the staff than we have now?
I think always. We're very fortunate to have such involvement from Madison Youth and Family Services. As a matter of fact, I sent my units to Scott Hackern at NYFS to take a look and see where he can add. So that's an amazing resource, but certainly, you know, one of the things that was concerning me when I was writing the K-3 curriculum with those teachers yesterday was I am concerned how often they're going to be pulled in so many different directions. We have, for instance, Rachel Lynch, who is an amazing resource, but is split between 2 elementary schools. And she's trying to get into every K-3 classroom in the district. And sometimes it'll be co-taught, sometimes the social workers will do it. But I also don't want her to have to spend all of her time doing this valuable pursuit, but not being able to attend to her other needs. So certainly.
So glad you mentioned that.
She's
She's a great example. So Zoe and myself collaborated on writing a grant application that we just submitted for another counselor. But of course, it's only a period of funding, and then it would need to be picked up by the board. But in addition to that, we've been talking about the social workers and the role that they're playing. We have 2 social workers that are also grant covered that will be coming off of a grant. So there definitely will be a role for the board to play in the budget process.
After this coming year, so we have one more year under the grant, so it's a kind of clip that we're concerned.
So we're writing optimistically,
Yeah.
you know, so we're writing to maximize what we have, but very much, you know, you could, Rachel is wonderful. She's one counselor between 2 buildings. And we recognize that is a need. So we're trying to find money elsewhere, and then we'll hit you up when you don't have that.
We always appreciate grant funding, even though it can present a cliff, so it's a double-edged sword, but you know, you take the help when you need it, especially coming off of COVID.
Yeah,
And maybe we
we're
can
helping
find
in
ways to
process
fund
with
that
Zoper, and
forward.
I wanna do a shout out to Zoper, willingness to take that on. Her first grant. It was a nurturing role. She didn't cry. Yeah, but those, I mean, that's 3 positions. Keep it on your radar.
I have one last question, or just a comment. One of the things you had mentioned about access to counselors, I'm thinking more high school, and how sometimes it's hard in the moment, you know, when something comes up for kids to get to their counselor or access them. And I was wondering if maybe with students, you could brainstorm some ways, like I'm picturing almost like an Instagram for kids, for the high school kids that they have access to, that they could reach out, DM their, you know, like I'm picturing, that's where we need them.
Yeah.
Where that's where we'll find them.
We are just starting, one of my counselors just started it recently, even just, it's hard sometimes to get down to schedule an appointment. If they come down and we're not there, or we're doing a lesson or something. So he just started creating a calendar so they can say, oh, he's free at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, I'm gonna sign up. So we are trying to do that. They're great on, you know, on the computer. It's a lot easier than stopping down and then having him not be there or her not be there. So we are working on things like that. it's through Google, so, you know, they hop right on and they do it, and they've been great about signing up and they come down, so it's easier for them. But anything like that, I know, like when you say like Instagram.
Yeah, I'm picturing, like, I do this to my own kids in college, I'm so crazy. But like, you know, like your counselor would like send, you know,
Yeah, we have
Send
Google
out-
Classrooms and we'll send things out to them and they can message us back.
I
But
wonder if a
it's-
student can create some sort of like, I don't know, like.
Yeah.
I
know
mean,
it's
I feel
like-
like
like
bird
a-
twitch, like,
something-
I feel
Right,
bird
yeah.
twitchy,
Something
something.
that's more like text messaging, like,
Yeah,
because
yes.
that's, well,
I
that's
mean-
just how they communicate. It,
Right.
face-to-face communication tends to be more
Yeah, well, that's my
intimidating to
point, like the
teens.
whole idea of like meet them where they are, like go and like,
I think,
and then
I think what
counselors will.
holds us back a lot is the Student Data Privacy Act.
Yes, I
Constraints
know.
with that, so.
But if there's one that is grown, born and bred within the Google, I don't know.
Yeah, no,
There's a student out there
I
that might
know.
be able to like create one, like
Yeah.
A lot of times they are
platform.
way smarter than us.
Oh,
adults at that kind of
100%.
stuff.
Especially with something like that.
Yeah.
You say Instagram or any of that.
Conscious of it.
Like, we're trying to make that.
Oh, I'm picturing like
Yes,
pause,
slideshow.
like pause
So we have any
Yeah.
members-
or something, I don't
yeah.
know, like there's something.
I love that, I
Like
know.
brainstorm with kids, like what could we do? And then there's access. Get them where
And
they
that's a
are.
great idea for them. And could you create it while you're sharing that? idea?
Yes, that's what they, and they probably do,
Yeah, they probably do.
done, yeah, like digital natives.
Well, thank you very much for your
Thank you so
presentation.
much.
Thank you.
And,
Your work is so
your-
much.
Your responsiveness to all of our questions, clearly, this is an area of great interest to us.
Yeah.
You know, thank
Well,
you
yeah.
very much for that. And barring any other questions or statements, we will adjourn at 6:30.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.